Hey everyone, and welcome. You ever feel like your brain just gets stuck? Like, especially when depression hits, and it's the same worry, it's just going round and round. Well, today's deep dive, we're talking about how to short circuit that cycle using something surprisingly potent journaling.
And the cool thing is you've already got a head start with this.
Yeah.
The article that you share, the 50 journal prompts to help with depression from Listallion, it's not just like a random list. It's structured in a way to make this whole journaling thing feel doable, even if you're totally new to it.
Okay, I'm listening. So, why is writing stuff down supposed to be so powerful when it comes to managing depression? I get like venting to a friend, but a journal.
Imagine this. So your brain's like a crowded room with all these thoughts just bouncing off the walls. Journaling. That's like opening a window and letting some fresh air in. You're taking those thoughts, those jumbled up feelings, and you're kind of pinning them down on paper. That alone can really bring the intensity down.
So, less about perfect grammar, more about just getting it out of my head.
Exactly. And here's the cool part. Neuroscience actually backs this up. Studies show that journaling can actually quiet your amygdala. That's your brain's alarm center. Part of the limbic system. It governs our emotional responses. And by calming that down, we create space for clearer thinking, less reactivity. And that, my friend, is huge when you're dealing with depression.
Okay, so less stress, a calmer inner alarm system. All right, I'm starting to see the appeal here, but I gotta admit, 50 prompts. That feels kind of daunting. Where do I even start?
That's where Listallion's approach is really clever. They've broken these prompts down into categories. It's almost like a choose-your-own adventure for self-discovery. And get this, each category is named after a horse breed, like Arajois, Galloway, Haflinger.
Hold on, so I can channel my inner equestrian while I unpack my feelings. I love that. But are the actual prompts as interesting as their names?
Let's find out. We'll go through each category. You can pick a couple that jump out at you, and we'll break them down.
Sounds like a plan. First up, we've got self-reflection. Let's dive in. Okay, so scrolling through these self-reflection prompts. This one, describe a time when you felt truly happy. It feels, I don't know, kind of cheesy, but also kind of want to try it.
It's amazing how a simple prompt can unlock these like really powerful memories, right? See, depression, it often kind of warps how we see the past. It's like happiness was this far-off land we can never visit again. But this prompt, it kind of nudges us to remember those moments, reminding us that joy, it is attainable.
Yeah, it's like that saying, right? Happiness is not a destination, it's a way of traveling. But how does just remembering happy times actually help with, like, the here and now of depression?
Well, it's not just about reminiscing. The prompt goes a little deeper, see. It asks, how can you recreate that feeling today? It's about figuring out the ingredients of your happiness recipe. Were you surrounded by people you love? Maybe engrossed in some creative project? Hiking out in nature. By recognizing those elements, you can start to weave them back into your life, little by little.
It's like creating a happiness treasure map, using those memories as clues. Okay, this next self-reflection prompt's a bit more intense. Identify 3 things that trigger your depressive episodes. I gotta admit, sometimes I'd rather avoid even thinking about those triggers.
Totally. It's understandable to want to shy away from negativity, especially when you're feeling down already. But think of this prompt, like putting on your detective hat, right? Instead of letting those triggers control you, you're taking back the power by, shining a light on them.
So it's about becoming aware of the things that send me spiraling. But then what? Knowing doesn't always fix it.
You're right, it doesn't. But awareness, that's the crucial first step. Once you've identified those triggers, you can start to build your arsenal of coping mechanisms. Maybe it's setting boundaries with certain people or limiting that social media exposure or even just practicing some mindfulness when those negative thoughts start creeping in.
It's like creating your own personalized game plan for dealing with those pesky depression gremlins. Okay, moving on from the self-reflection corral here, we've got exploring emotions. These prompts, they seem to go a bit deeper.
Absolutely. If self-reflection is about taking stock, exploring emotions, this is about diving into the nuanced landscape of your inner world.
Okay, this first one from exploring emotions feels pretty straightforward. Describe your current emotional state in detail. Seems simple enough, but is there a trick to it?
The power is in the details, really. So instead of just slapping a label on your emotions with these generic terms like sad or angry, try challenging yourself to go deeper, Are you heavy with sadness, pierced by a sharp, sudden grief, simmering with a quiet resentment? The more specific you are, the more clarity you gain, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that game where you have to describe a color without using the obvious words, like sky blue becomes a robin's egg after a spring rain, and suddenly, boom, it's more vivid, more real.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative. The prompt even encourages using images to describe how you feel. Sometimes words fail us around them,
Hmm.
but a color, a shape, even just a fleeting scene in your mind, those things can hold a lot of emotional truth.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm also drawn to this prompt. Write about a time when you felt understood by someone. That one feels really relevant when, depression can make you feel so isolated.
You're so right. Depression, it thrives in isolation. And this prompt, it's a powerful antidote, reminds us that connection, it's possible, even when it feels impossible to find. By revisiting a time where we felt truly seen, truly heard, it reawakens that human need for belonging.
And maybe helps us recognize those qualities in other people, maybe even in ourselves, so that we can cultivate more of those supportive connections. Okay, ready to move on to the next category.
Let's do it. Let's tackle daily practices. Now, these prompts, they give you a roadmap for incorporating small but significant actions into your daily routine to support your mental well-being. It's about building habits to create a more resilient you, one step at a time.
Daily practices. Okay, this one made me laugh. Describe your morning routine, because honestly, some days it's a miracle I even make it out of bed.
I hear you. And that's exactly why it's so important. It's like how we start our day, it really sets the tone for everything that follows. Think of your morning routine as the foundation of your day. Is it, shaky and chaotic, or is it grounded and intentional?
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this. So instead of hitting snooze like 12 times and then starting the day frazzled, maybe try incorporating a quick meditation, a walk outside, or even just taking a minute to actually enjoy my coffee.
Exactly. It's about finding those small changes that can have a big impact on your mood, your energy levels throughout the day.
Okay, this next daily practices prompt is very 21st century. Reflect on your use of technology. Gotta admit, I'm probably glued to my phone more than I'd like to admit.
Well, you're not alone. We live in a world that's totally saturated with tech. And while it has incredible benefits, it's easy to get sucked in by that constant stream of information, stimulation, all of it. This prompt lets us take a step back and really think about how our tech habits are affecting our mental well-being, for better or worse.
It's like that saying, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. But these days, it's our phones doing all the filling with endless notifications, distractions.
Right. This prompt, it encourages us to ask ourselves, is how I'm using technology fueling my mind, or is it draining it? Am I using it intentionally, or is it using me?
It's about reclaiming our time and attention. Those are precious resources that are so easily hijacked by the digital world, aren't they? Ready to journey into the future with the next category.
Absolutely. Let's delve into the world of future goals. Now, these prompts, they encourage us to look ahead with intention, to align our aspirations with what we value, and ultimately with our own pursuit of happiness.
All right, future goals. These prompts already feel kind of different. Exciting, even. I'm liking this one. Describe your vision for the next year. What do you hope to accomplish? And how will it contribute to your overall happiness? It's like setting intentions, but with a focus on well-being.
Exactly. This one really encourages us to dream big, but with a bit of a twist. It's not just about those external markers of success, It's more about how can we align those goals with our values, really make sure we're aiming for happiness that feels true to us.
So less about, like, climb the corporate ladder and more about find a career that actually makes me feel something, even if it means a totally different path.
Exactly. It's about designing a future that feels right for you, fulfilling. Your goals aren't just tasks to check off. They're more like stepping stones on the path to a life with more joy, more meaning.
Okay, this next future goals prompt is speaking to me. Write about a personal development goal. I'm always down for some self-improvement, but how does that tie into managing, depression?
Think of personal growth as investing in your own resilience. When we're struggling with depression, it's easy to get trapped in negative self-talk, those limiting beliefs about ourselves. But this prompt, it challenges us to break free from that. Imagine yourself evolving, becoming even better.
So instead of dwelling on what I see as my flaws, maybe I focus on building a new skill, putting energy into a hobby I've ignored, or finally facing a fear that's been holding me back, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And notice, it's not just about picking a goal. The prompt also asks, what resources do you need to achieve it? That simple question makes us accountable, encourages us to gather the tools, the support that we need to make it happen.
It's like building a roadmap for personal growth with pit stops for support and refueling along the way. Okay, last category, gratitude and positivity. This one feels extra important because when you're dealing with depression, it can be tough to even see the good.
It's true. Gratitude is like the opposite of negativity. It's about shifting that focus from what we lack to what we already have, appreciating those little things we often miss.
This prompt seems like an easy place to start. Write about 3 things you're grateful for today. Simple, but I bet it's more powerful than it sounds.
It's the simplicity that makes it work. Gratitude doesn't have to be about these huge gestures or incredible events. It's more about those everyday moments. That first sip of coffee, a good conversation with someone you care about, a quiet moment when you actually feel content.
Like training your brain to see the world through a more appreciative lens, even when things are rough. Okay, this last prompt from gratitude and positivity is really resonating with me. Describe a positive experience you had recently. It reminds me of that saying, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions.
What a great connection. This prompt is all about that active role we can take in creating more joy for ourselves. When we reflect on positive experiences, we're not just reliving them, we're kind of figuring out what made them so special in the first place.
So it's like reverse engineering our own happiness. We figure out what we were doing, who we were with, even just our mindset, and then we can consciously bring more of that into our lives.
Exactly. Happiness isn't just something that happens to us passively. It's something we have to cultivate, nurture, create one moment, one choice at a time.
This deep dive into journaling for depression, I'm telling you, eye-opening. It feels good to have a toolkit of prompts to use when things get emotionally choppy.
And remember, you don't have to do all 50 at once, right? Pick a few that speak to you, make it a habit, and most importantly, be kind to yourself through it all. Approach the whole thing with curiosity.
And that journal, that's your safe space. No judgment there. Get messy, be vulnerable, let it all out. It's for your eyes only.
And who knows? Maybe this is the start of something even bigger. Maybe you'll feel inspired to explore other creative outlets too. Could be sketching, singing, even dancing. What if those could help you tap into the power of these prompts in a new way? Something to think about as you start your own journaling journey.
That's a fantastic point. It's all about finding what works for you no matter what, giving yourself permission to experiment. Until next time, everyone, happy journaling.